So good morning, everyone, and thanks very much for joining us. I'm Gary Walpole, Director of the Circular Economy Innovation Communities project. We're ESF funded, as you can see, logo bottom right. And that means that public and third sector organisations can take part in the CEIC programme, the Circular Economy Innovation Communities programme, fully funded. So there's no cash cost to public and third sector organisations to take part in the programme. The programme is running across the Cardiff Capital region and the Swansea Bay region. And as the two logos on the bottom of the screen there suggest, or as you might have concluded, Cardiff Met are delivering the Cardiff Capital region cohorts and Swansea University delivering the Swansea Bay. It's a 10-month programme, and as mentioned, it's for public and third sector organisations. Why are we doing this? Circular Economy Innovation Communities, because we would like and we will support public service practitioners, organisations to implement circular economy principles in their organisations, because as we all know, there is a climate emergency. It does have impact locally, it's having impact across the world, and as you can see from the graphic there, the planet is heating up, and that's causing some serious issues, some very serious issues. And as you can see from the suggestions, that means an awful lot of damage, issues, challenges for us as a species going forward. We've all seen that in recent months, the recent storms, flooding is becoming an issue, and obviously for a country, Wales, that has a huge coastline, that coastal erosion is an issue. And an alarming stat that I read recently, for every 1 centimetre rise in the sea level, that moves inland approximately 1 metre. So we do have to do something about it, and so we're calling on all public service and third sector organisations in Wales to come together and work on challenges they've got in their organisations that they can implement circular economy principles into. So one of the fundamental principles of the Circular Economy Innovations Community Programme is that of open innovation. And I put this slide up, and it's not so, the question is not so useful when you've got an audience that's muted. But I put this slide up to highlight the value of open innovation. These 6 different cars, and in fact during the programme they brought more cars into this, were developed collaboratively by the 3 manufacturers, Ford, as you can see, Mazda and Volvo. And what those cars have in common is an awful lot, is what you'd probably all tell me. In fact, the 3 manufacturers come together, and the models concerned, once they spent time with each other and collaborated in terms of their design teams, eventually about 60% of all of the parts across those 6 models were common. It took them 2 years. This programme will take 10 months and will work on one specific challenge that is common to the group that wants to look at that challenge. But those engineers come together, and they come together for a number of reasons. As you can imagine, open innovation, as it's termed, where organisations collaborate to develop new solutions, have benefits, numerous benefits. So why did they do that? Well, as you can imagine, it reduced costs. If you've got a group of people working on a problem, then that problem is far more likely to develop a more robust solution if there's multiple individuals and organisations working on the problem. So you've reduced costs. You develop a more robust solution because a problem solved by a group is solved more robustly than by individuals, and obviously that multiplies up for multiple groups. And then in terms of implementation, you're able to leverage the combined implementation networks and knowledge of each of the individuals and organizations involved. So in summary, you'll develop a solution more quickly, you'll develop a more robust solution, and you'll develop a solution that's more likely to be implemented and implemented more successfully when you've got that inter-organizational collaboration. Open innovation, as it's termed in the academic lit and now more so in the common business literature. So CEIC is an open innovation program that's designed to support public service and third sector practitioners to leverage their combined knowledge and skills in order to develop solutions that have circular economy outcomes. So what does the program look like? In terms of its framework or its outline, the program is set up as a community of practice, hence the term or the second half of the acronym Innovation Communities. We do that for a couple of reasons. Firstly, the program is delivered in that way so that the communities of practice that we form can continue beyond the program, so that you work with practitioners from other organizations and obviously your own, and the community of practice that you develop that has an interest in circular economy and embedding circular economy solutions within your organization and an interest in change and innovation will continue beyond the program. And the tools and techniques that we introduce will be common to that community of practice, so that when looking at future challenges, you'll be able to bring those tools and techniques to bear on the challenges or problems that you look at. In terms of the content or areas of knowledge that we take you through, we start with looking at innovation dynamics in a 2-day experiential workshop in order to make you all familiar with some of the fundamental concepts within innovation. And then we take participants through the 5 stages of the design thinking model. That's an empathy phase where we support you to fully understand the challenge that you're looking at as a group and understand it from a user perspective, understand it from stakeholder perspective, in order that you can fully define that challenge in the next workshop. We then support you to define that challenge, and often that will mean that the challenge that originally was looked at tends to be then teased out into a number of challenges, and then you can decide which you're going to focus on across the 10 months. We then support you in an ideation workshop, in other words, a solution phase, where you develop an outline, a solution to the challenge that you've agreed to work on as a group, before we then support you to go through the prototyping. So to develop an actual prototype that you can storyboard and start to test then with colleagues and users, stakeholders that you've engaged with at the empathy phase. We ensure there's a further testing, so you can look at how the solution will be implemented, hopefully start to implement the solution as well, and ensure that you learn from that process as an individual, but also as an organization. And then at the end of the program, we ensure there's opportunity to reflect and learn as an individual, reflect and learn as an organization, and share that learning, importantly, with colleagues from your organization, colleagues from other organizations, and those across the region. So it's about bringing that learning together and celebrating the success you've had in developing a solution which will have an impact on your carbon footprint as an organization and others, or biodiversity, etc. So that's the conceptual outline of the program. That's what it looks like in its entirety. So these circles across the middle are the one-day workshops that we run, and there's 10 of those across the 10 months approximately. We have site visits. Those site visits are in person, but in essence, they're opportunities to gather intelligence, knowledge. This webinar today is an example of a site visit, and we've got one of the cohorts dialing directly in today, and this is an area that they were interested in. So Martin will impart his knowledge for that organization, cohort, sorry, but also obviously for those outside that have an interest in this area. And during those 10 months, we support you to work on this new service solution that we'll be able to implement in your organization. And the first few workshops help us form the cohorts together as a community of practice. So hopefully that gives you a much clearer idea of what the entire program looks like. You might think, well, how do you form a group of people into a community of practice? Well, the program is also underpinned by social learning theory, and so an awful lot of the way that we teach or facilitate the program is through experiential learning techniques, so that they look like they're exercises and challenges that we set groups. So all of these photos are taken from an experiential learning event where you will work with different colleagues on different challenges in order for you to get to know each other, to understand the fundamental dynamics of innovation, and we can form you then into that community of practice where you become comfortable to support your peers, but also you become critical friends. The design thinking model, as outlined within the conceptual framework, a little more detail there on it. I won't talk through because I think it's relatively self-evident, and I've covered in the conceptual framework. So we've run a number of previous programs that have had impact for the organizations that have been involved. We'll make these slides available. They will go online on our website after this workshop within a day or so. You can click on some links that are there, all previous participants that are talking about the experience that they had on similar programs and the impact it's had on them as organizations and as individuals. I've got a quick example to run through. So this was a project that we ran with Welsh Water using the same methodology, where they were looking at how they evaluated water quality and detected leaks in various parts of their pipe. And this piece of kit that you can see on the top right, this is a site visit where we went out to look at what the users were doing. And this is what they wanted to look at and change. We went through a series of activities following that design thinking process. We actually mixed groups here. You've got a group of people from Welsh Water and a group of people from Ford that were working on the same challenge. Once they've developed the empathy phase, once they've started and defined the challenge and were thinking about their solution, they brought in some of their suppliers and worked through potential solutions with their suppliers, as you can see there in the pictures. And the solution that was developed is that you can see on the right. So they went from the standpipe that you saw in the first picture. And initially they had a camera of about this size on the right, and that eventually was developed into something far smaller. So what they have now is a new service solution where one engineer can operate this piece of equipment, which is basically a screen that allows them to see what's happening down in the pipe, rather than just testing the quality of the water as they previously did. That example of open innovation has returned huge savings for Welsh Water, and they've developed excellent collaborative open innovation relationships with those suppliers that they work with. That's what the new service solution map tends to look like when it's first drafted, and that's basically where we get people to after about the first 3 or 4 days of the program.